Hello students, myself Monotosh Dey, your English helpline on the go. Today I shall discuss a poem from Flamingo of Standard 12. The poem under discussion today is A Thing of Beauty, written by John Keats. Before I begin, let me give you a short introduction of the poet, which will be followed by theme of the poem and stanza-wise explanation, literary devices and recapitulation of the poem. So let's begin. First, short biography of John Keats. John Keats is considered to be second generation of romantic poet with Lord Byron and P.B. Shelley. By the end of 19th century, he became one of the most beloved of all English poets. His poetry is characterized by the sensual imagery, especially in series of odes. His notable works are A Autumn, Ode to a Nightingale, On First Looking into Chapman's Homer, Ode on a Grecian Urn. Now let's move on to the theme of the poem. The poem highlights how various objects of nature are a perennial source of pleasure for human beings. A beautiful object is always treasured in our mind because it provides us eternal and everlasting joy. An object of beauty never fades into insignificance, but multiplies many folds whenever it returns to our mind. The poem focuses on the theme of happiness and how it can be experienced. Now let's move on to stanza-wise explanation. First lines 1 to 5. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness, but will keep a bower quiet for us, and a sleep full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. Let me explain you the meanings of these lines. The poet says that beauty stays forever with us. It never fades away and it increases with the passing of time. The poet means to say that, I repeat, an object of beauty never goes off with the passing of time. Rather, it multiplies with passage of time. According to the poet, beauty is like a beautiful tree under whose shade all the creatures can sleep peacefully, enjoy good health and relaxed breathing. Now let's move on to lines 6 and 7. Therefore, on every morrow are we wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth. Let me now explain you the meaning of these two lines. The poet says that with every passing day, it is the beauty which fills us with immense joy to live on this earth. With an object of beauty providing us sustenance of life, we are being attached to the earth like all the flowers remain attached to each other in a garland of flowers. Now let's move on to lines 8 to 11. Spite of despondence of the inhuman dearth of noble creatures, of the gloomy days, of all the unhealthy and over-darkened ways made for our searching. Now let me explain you the meaning. The poet means to say that a beautiful object has such magnetic charm that it tends to overpower everything. In spite of being depressed, in spite of having shortness of virtuous people around, in spite of our sad days, trials and tribulations, which tend to restrict us to find those things of beauty, we overcome all limitations and find joy in recollecting the moment of happiness in our lives. Now let's move on to lines 11 to 13. Yes, in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves away the pall from our dark spirits. The poet emphasizes on the fact that in spite of all shortcomings of life, all the hurdles of life, in spite of everything that comes as a stumbling block to the stepping stones towards success, an object of beauty that is found in nature takes away our pain from our depressed mind. So now let's move on to lines 13 to 19. Such the moon, sun, trees old and young, sprouting a shady boon, for simple sheep, and such are daffodils. With the green world they live in, and clear rills that for themselves a cooling covert make, against the hot season, the mid-forest break, rich with a sprinkling of fair musk rose blooms. Now, let me explain you the meanings of these lines. The poet gives the examples of the sun, moon, trees, daffodils, and small rivers and forest fern, which are the things of beauty found in nature, and they are responsible for creating beautiful memories for us during our bad phase of life. For example, trees, both young and old, provide shades to young sheep. Daffodils, by their green surroundings, are a perennial source of pleasure for us. Clear streams refer to small river, provide cool breeze and give relief from the hot season. The forest fern of musk roses is also a refreshing treat for the eyes. Now let's move on to lines 20 to 24. And such too is the grandeur of the tombs we have imagined for the mighty dead. All lovely tales that we have heard or read, an endless fountain of immortal drink pouring onto us from the heavens brink. Now, let me explain you. While talking about the objects of nature that gives us immense pleasure, the poet takes reference from our everyday life to justify that there is presence of joy even in the remembrance of famous people who are dead. They continue to inspire us with their contribution in the world, even though they are no longer with us. The poet further says in this reference that all beautiful stories of great people that we have heard or read are a source of perennial, that is endless pleasure for us, as these stories continue to inspire us and help us sustain the hard times of our life. These stories are like endless flow of water from a fountain, which are showered upon us from the Almighty God. We experience heavenly bliss when we take recourse to the life stories of great personalities. They are like endless fountain from which mankind can drink elixir of life. Now, let's move on to the literary devices used in the poem. To begin with the rhyme scheme, first with the structure and then the literary devices. Rhyme scheme A, B, B, C. Then, when it comes to literary devices, first is alliteration. As you can see on your screen, sleep sweet, S sound is repeated. Band, bean, and noble nature, simple sheep, cooling cupboard. Okay, here you can see the highlighted bold red color. Okay, suggests that repetition of the consonant sounds like B, like N, like S, like C repeated. Okay, in successive words. Now, moving on to the next literary device, that is imagery. The examples of which are a flowery band to bind us, sprouting shady boon, that is trees giving us shade. Daffodils with the green world they live in, meaning growing process of daffodils. Then clear rills here. Clear rills refer to clear river streams. Now let's move on to the next literary device, that is called metaphor. Like for example, immortal rings wreathing a flowery band. Reading a flowery band refers to the beautiful things of our life that bind us to the earth. Now, another figure of speech, that is antithesis. Antithesis means opposite words placed together. For example, old and young. Okay, so now let's move on to the recapitulation part of the poem. The poem gives us the message that a thing of beauty is a joy forever. In spite of the occasional bad patch in our lives, things of beauty are a source of perennial pleasure that helps us to sustain the hard reality of life. Anything that gives us pleasure sustains us to face during our adversity. Any form of beauty that inspires us is like an endless fountain from which mankind can drink the elixir of life. The poem conveys the message that anything beautiful remains engraved in our heart and helps us live life in spite of trials and tribulations. So, my dear friends, this concludes the explanation of the poem. Now, for questions and answers, kindly refer to my blog, which is www.literaturewithmonotosh.blogspot.com. Dear students, kindly subscribe to my channel, which is Learning with a Difference, and press the bell icon for notification of every new concept video that I upload for you. So before I wind up, let me wish to all my dear students 71st Happy Republic Day. Take care and have a great day.